Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. And as promised, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new speeder bike for the vintage collection and comparing it against the 2012 Toys R Us exclusive. Now I know many people out there think this is essentially the same bike and that Hasbro have basically used the same mould and the sculpt and what have you, but at the end of the day that isn't true. They are different, although I know what you're thinking.
They're the same picture.
They do look pretty damn similar, and they do. They absolutely do. But the one on the left is the new speeder bike. The one on the right is the 2012 Toys R Us exclusive. So I'm just going to look at it from the top-down view now here so we can take a look at some of the differences. Now, apart from the paint deco, I mean, if we start on the paint deco, for example, the paint deco on the new one is noticeably better. I mean, you've got all of these battle damage paint apps on the front here, whereas on here they're more like little splodges. Same on the front part of here of the sort of canopy. Again, only a few little splodges there. And when we take a look at the side of the bikes, you will see that the new version does have, you know, better battle damage in terms of the paint. However, there are some things about the new bike which I don't like and I prefer about the 2012 version. And we will get into that in terms of the paint and the overall quality of it. But, you know, let's just take a look at the bikes in general and in terms of the sculpt to start with. Now you can see at the top here, the missile or the front gun is different. This one's a lot smaller and it's been painted silver, whereas this one is all of that gunmetal grey at the top there. And you can see that the actual sort of blaster or missile or whatever it is at the front there is a lot bigger than that one. You can also see that these struts going down, these are thicker than this one. These are a lot more sort of thinner and streamlined. You will also see that on this one they are a brown colour and they've had a sort of silver highlight touch up done on them, and this one hasn't. And this is where this one lets it down, in my opinion. The sort of engine parts and everything of the new bike have not been painted whatsoever, and they just look a bit plasticky basically. You'll also see that the actual sort of body of the bike itself is ever so slightly wider on this version than it is on that one. This one is a lot more pointy at the end there, you can just see there. Although both do open up in exactly the same way, you can also see that the buttons and everything on there are a lot less pronounced on the new version compared to this one. The control panels on the 2012 version are a lot more pronounced. You can see the buttons are sort of stick out a little bit further, plus they've been painted silver, whereas these ones are black, and the buttons are in slightly different places as well. You can also see the sort of grooves on the sculpt is different to this one as well. That part there is very, very similar again, but you know, you can tell just by looking at it that it is different. You can also see that the seat is ever so slightly longer on the new version compared to the 2012. As we go down, the knapsack on the back is a different sculpt and it's removable, whereas this one isn't. So that's basically how it looks from the top down. The handlebars we will get to in a second. You can see on the 2012 version, this one's all bent out, and I think that's maybe the reason why they've gone with the design that they have done on the latest version. But we'll talk about that in a second. Alright then, so turning the bikes over so we can get a look at the underneath and compare them. Once again, you can really see the difference in the sort of struts there. Much, much thinner on the old version and a slightly different design at the top there. Moving down, you can see that the paintwork for the actual battle damage and everything is present on the new one, but nothing on the old one. And also that blaster actually pivots and swivels, whereas the new one doesn't. It's actually set in this little hole here to stop it moving, which is a bit of a shame. You can unplug it and move it around, but once again it has a little peg on there, so it doesn't really move that freely. You'll see that from there downwards they are very similar. The feet are completely different though. One would say that the older version is a better design because it has the pegs for the feet for the figure, so he actually stays in place. But just looking from underneath, these look a much better design in terms of the aesthetic of how they look. These look much better to me. However, you will see that these again aren't painted at all. Nothing is painted underneath the bike except for the battle damage, whereas the 2012 version's got a lovely bronze effect. This has been painted like the exhaust thing there. You've got the tubes are black, whereas all of this is all one colour. So again, that is a little bit disappointing, and it's kind of like they've gone backwards in that respect. But you can definitely see that they are two different bikes. However, a lot of it looks like they share the parts. I really don't think they do. I just think maybe when they were designing them, maybe they had some older drawings or whatever for it. But essentially all the parts, the tooling are different. You can really see the detail on this block piece here is different to that, for example. Plus you've got that hole there for the stand. So the pieces do need to be different, and they most definitely are. Now, neither bike is able to sort of stand by itself. The 2012 version came with a little piece that you could attach to the front, which helped the front stay up. But ultimately you were supposed to use the stand that was provided, which plugged into the back there. So you can see that the sculpt is different there because they've got these sort of tiny exhausts basically on this one. And the flaps or guards for the engine there, they are completely different as well. You can even see that these ones are actually slightly larger than these ones, and they do have that sort of curve to them going down at the bottom, whereas these ones do not. Both of them lift up like so to reveal the engines, and you can once again see that the engines are completely different. The engine here looks very similar to the front engine, which we'll see in a minute, whereas these look completely different. And I actually prefer what's going on inside there, albeit they haven't painted it. And that seems to be the running theme about this new bike, is that it's missing some paint, which I feel the Vintage Collection standards should have. Like if you look at the tank for Rogue One, for example, all inside there and everything's all been weathered and painted and what have you. And I just think that they could have done that on this bike. So this is the 2012 version, and you can see the paintwork isn't great for the sort of battle damage and weathered effect. They're just literally splodges of paint going on there, where if you bring in the other one, you can see that the paintwork is just better, basically. But if you look at all the insides here, all this engine work, that's where that one falls down, because if you look at the 2012 version, again, this has been painted like a bronze, and I just think that looks better as well. So really you kind of need a mixture of the two. I wanted to talk about the handlebar situation as well, because I always thought that this was quite a good design. Basically the handlebars pivot on this pin here, but then inside you can just see that plastic sort of stretches in and out of that hole, and that allows it just to move ever so slightly and allows the figure a bit more give when you're trying to sit him on that seat. When you look at the new version, unfortunately they're plugged into both things here, so they just do not pivot at all. It wants to pivot, and to do it you need to take that pin out like that, but then I don't really see that working too well at all. You're left with a hole there, and you're left with that pin sticking out there, potentially scratching your vehicle, which isn't good. So once again, on the 2012 version, I feel that that's something that they could have brought in to this one. Looking inside the Speedbike's engine, you can see once again they are different. This one is a little bit longer than this one. The sculpts look very, very similar again. It's got to be said, they really do, but they are different. And once again, on the 2012 version, they've bothered to paint it silver, and it just looks a load better than this. You know, I don't really see the point of having this open, revealing just like a grey piece of plastic. Basically, they really should have, if anything out of this that should have been painted, it should have been that, in my opinion. The engine there, it looks loads better on this 2012 version. But you can see that they are different inside, and also this one goes all the way back and it doesn't have a clip on the front, whereas this one doesn't go all the way back, and you can see it's just got that little pin there which goes into that hole there. So this one will sit flush. When you put it down, it'll actually click into place like so, whereas this one, when you put it down, it just literally sits there like that. It doesn't need to click. And there again, you can see to accommodate that, that is why this nose is a little bit longer than this one. You'll also notice the overall colour of the new one is a much darker brown than the previous version. That's just in general across the whole bike. You'll also see as well that these side wings are a slightly different shape to those as well. So all in all, you know, it is a different ship, but I don't think it's different enough. And I'm really stumped with this, because obviously they've used some budget, new tooling budget to create this speeder bike. And it kind of annoys me a little bit when really there isn't enough difference with the new one compared to the old one. They could have, if they still have the tooling for that old one, they could have kept that and maybe just sorted out a few of the issues with that older one. The paintwork and everything is better on the new one in terms of the battle damage and everything, but also I think it's missing some integral paintwork that the 2012 version has. So it's a bit of a sort of combination of the two, really. If they could just put both together and make a definitive speeder bike, basically, then you'd have what we all want. But it is what it is. We're left with this one now. It does come with the carded Scout Trooper, which a lot of people want, and also it does come with a much better stand. So the stand that the 2012 version has come with is this. It's like this curved thing. This goes into the back of the speeder bike. You can only have it at one height, but it does pivot like that, and the speeder bike can look like it's flying around. Whereas the new version has this really nice stand here, which you can have in 3 different ways. You can have it high, medium, or low, depending on your preference. Perfect for, you know, if you're displaying it with your shelves or what have you. You might want it low, you might want it high, and I think that's a really good thing there. Hopefully you've already seen the review of the new one with everything that it can do, and looking at with the figures on it and everything. I've put an Ewok on it, I've put Leia, I've put Luke. I'm pretty sure I went through most things that you can do with the speeder bike in that review, but this video was really just to sort of compare it to the 2012 version, as much for my benefit as it is yours, to be honest, because I really did want to sort of check out what the differences were. But just looking at this one here, just that side view of the 2012 with the black pipes and the sort of bronze engine underneath, compared to the new one, which is all just one colour, you know, it's got to be said that this one looks a little bit better. If it could just have the much better paintwork of all the scratches and everything, then this would be a really perfect release, to be honest, of the speeder bike. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like down below on the video. And remember, when you are liking a video, you're liking the video that I've put together, not necessarily the product, because I'm sure quite a few people out there aren't really going to be too happy with how similar this one is to that one, and the fact that, you know, it's almost a bit of a downgrade. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support is always greatly appreciated. I hope you all have a fantastic new year and all the best for 2023. Thanks so much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.